I've been meditating on a new melody.
All right, looking forward to it. So, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktabinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Vrajakacharya Ashtotar Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham ki jai, Ganga Mayi ki jai, Jamuna Mayi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. Maharaj is now in Mauritius, where the time is around 3 a.m. So we're not sure if he's going to show up. He didn't send me a message yet saying definitely no, and we're certainly hoping that he will. But the friends must carry on in any case. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024 in New York, and we're starting tonight with the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 30, text number, let me just get to it here. Text number 7. Let me take a moment to post that in the chat so we have written record of it. So we know where to start next time. Hare Krishna. So Kapila Dev is now speaking on describing adverse fruitive activities. Sandahyamana sarvanga esham udvahanadhina karotya viratam mudho duritani durashaya. Although he, the materialist, the foolish materialist, although he is always burning with anxiety, such a fool always performs all kinds of mischievous activities with a hope which is never to be fulfilled in order to maintain his so-called family and society. It is said that it is easier to maintain a great empire than to maintain a small family, especially in these days when the influence of Kali Yuga is so strong that everyone is harassed and full of anxieties because of accepting the false presentation of Maya's family. The family we maintain is created by Maya. It is the perverted reflection of the family in Krishna Loka. In Krishna Loka, there are also family, friends, society, father and mother. Everything is there, but they are eternal. Here, as we change bodies, our family relationships also change. Sometimes we are in a family of human beings, sometimes in a family of demigods, sometimes a family of cats, or sometimes a family of dogs. Family, society, and friendship are flickering, and so they are called asat. It is said that as long as we are attached to this asat, temporary, non-existing society and family, we are always full of anxieties. The materialists do not know that the family, society, and friendship here in this material world are only shadows, and thus they become attached. Naturally, their hearts are always burning, but in spite of all inconvenience, they still work to maintain such false families because they have no information of the real family association with Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the previous chapter and the chapters preceding, Kapila Dev was speaking about the do's, what you do for absorbing your mind in devotional service. And now we're starting to hear about some of the do-nots. The do's, of course, as we remember, they include sense control, pratyahara. He's going down the list of all the items of the Ashtanga yoga system. Sense control, developing attachment to Krishna ultimately. And now here, this chapter, we're hearing all the beginning of the do-nots. Durashaya, he says. It's translated here as evil-minded. Elsewhere, it's just, dur means bad or negative, and ashaya means desires. So you got some bad desires going on. And what do you do to achieve those bad desires? Duritani. You do bad things or sinful activities, as it's translated here. And why do you do these things? Because as we'll hear Srila Vishwanath in a moment, his description of this word, udvahana. So udvahana is for maintaining. We get this idea that we are the maintainer. We must be the maintainer. After all, we're the enjoyer. We're the controller. And so naturally, maintenance comes next in that whole pantheon of illusions. But because we're not the maintainer, we're always burning with anxiety. We're holding on to something that's not there. The idea is not there. The actual things that we're trying to hold on to are not there. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his translation on Udvahana, says Udvahanadina means with worries about protecting, feeding, showing affection, marrying off his family members. And that's just a very short, abbreviated list of all the things that need to be done for maintaining the illusion that we're maintaining our family members. So when you're burning in all your limbs, that's not a very peaceful situation. Later on, we'll see, of course, we're reading the text here, but we'll see some of the illustrations I'm sure we've all seen in this canto and the fifth canto of various situations in which the living entity's subtle body is in some hellish place and his limbs are literally burning. Opposite of the peaceful situation that we want. But the peaceful situation is a whole different mindset is required for that. That mindset is Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvaman Shantim Richchati. If you just understand who the maintainer is, then you can be peaceful. But what can we really maintain? It's like Prabhupada says in the beginning, it's easier to maintain a great empire than to maintain a small family, especially in Kali Yuga, when Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya, everything is against us. We don't live long, our minds don't work right, we're all born brain damaged in Kali Yuga. There's no upadruta. The anxiety never stops. In other words, even after death, anxiety never stops. I did bring up the burning limb situation, but we desperately cling to this dream that we're the maintainer. And now, probably this has been going on for some time, but people maintain dogs and cats with the same intense level of affection that they maintain their human family members. You see on the back of people's cars in this country, dog mom, or I heart my border collies, things like that. They don't know, Prabhupada says, that the family, society, and friendship here are only shadows. When I heard that shadows, I thought like images on a movie screen. There's a light projecting onto a piece of plastic, and then what's it projecting? It's projecting shadows, very colorful, lively, lifelike shadows, but they're just shadows. But we get so absorbed in these shadow things. And I was really hoping that Maharaj would be here, because I'd love to hear his take on the family relationships that Prabhupada mentions here in Krishna Loka. We have friends, society, father and mother, and they're eternal. Must be great. What does he say at the end? We still work to maintain our false families because we have no information of the real family association with Krishna. Hare Krishna. Anyone with some comments here? I don't have much more to say on that. And it's good to stop when you don't have anything to say. All right. Hare Krishna. Let's see. Moving on to text 8 then. Panchatattva Prabhu, would you be kind enough to read text 8? Is that okay?
I would be delighted.
Thank you so much.
Text 8. Akshiptatmendriya strinam asatinam chamayaya raho rachatayal raho rachatayal apai shishunam kalabashinam. He gives heart and senses to a woman who falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys solitary embraces and talking with her, and he is enchanted by the sweet words of the small children. Purport. Family life within the kingdom of the illusory energy Maya is just like a prison for the eternal living entity. In prison, a prisoner is shackled by iron chains and iron bars. Similarly, a conditioned soul is shackled by the charming beauty of a woman, by her solitary embraces and talks of so-called love, and by the sweet words of his small children. Thus, he forgets his real identity. In this verse, the words strinam asatinam indicate that womanly love is just to agitate the mind of man. Actually, in the material world, there is no love. Both the woman and the man are interested in their sense gratification. For sense gratification, a woman creates an illusory love, and the man becomes enchanted by such false love and forgets his real duty. When there are children as the result of such a combination, the next attraction is to the sweet words of the children. The love of the woman at home and the talk of the children makes one a secure prisoner, and thus he cannot leave his home. Such a person is termed in Vedic language a grihamedhi, which means one whose center of attraction is home. Grihasta refers to one who lives with family, wife, and children, but whose real purpose of living is to develop Krishna consciousness. One is therefore advised to become a grihasta and not a grihamedhi. The grihasta's concern is to get out of the family life created by illusion and enter into real family life with Krishna. Whereas the grihamedhi's business is to repeatedly chain himself to so-called family life in one life after another and perpetually remain in the darkness of Maya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Actually, in the material world, there is no love, says Srila Prabhupada. Well, that seems rather heavy, rather harsh statement. But according to this standard of the Vedas, the love found here is illusory in the sense that persons who are ignorant of their actual spiritual natures are engaged in misdirecting that loving propensity to the temporary bodies of other living beings who are going through the same conditioned life, whether a man towards a woman or a woman towards a man, same business. It's illusion. It's illusory. I had one elderly friend whose one of his favorite sayings was, "To the family." That was his focus, his family. And he was, immensely proud of the fact that he was very concerned at all points and at all moments about the well-being of his children and his wife and his extended family members. And such is the nature of illusion. Prabhupada describes here the difference between a grihasta and a grihamedi, worth considering. It's not to say that someone in grihasta life or developing his or her spiritual life is indifferent to the needs of the wife or the needs of the husband, the needs of the children, or has no feelings whatsoever for any of them. That's not at all the case. But what it means is, instead of the main focus being the enjoyment of the body of the wife or the production of sweet words from the children, instead of that being his main and indeed sole interest, his or her main interest is in developing devotional service. They see their partner, whether the man seeing the woman or the woman seeing the man in their relationship, as a servant of Krishna. And instead of focusing on how they can enjoy this servant, whether enjoying their body or enjoying their senses or whatever, they think of them as, well, what they really are. They're servants of Krishna. And therefore, they engage in an effort to serve their partner so that they can become more advanced in Krishna consciousness. Can you find, there's a book up there. Hang on one second. I really want to share this. It's an interesting passage from one of Rupa Vilasa's new books. I think it's right here. Hang on one second. Right. Disappears. Anyway, I'll find it later, and maybe have a chance to bring it up. But it's an interesting passage, which is worth exploring. I was also reminded here of the Brahma Vimohan Leela, where Lord Brahma is amazed that this small cowherd boy has killed Aghasura and is thinking, I have to test this personality, see exactly who he is. So he steals the cowherd boys and calves, and for a whole year, they are replaced by Lord Krishna by expansions of Krishna himself as each one of the cowherd boys and calves. And how this stimulates so much affection and love by the mothers of the individual cowherd boys and calves. And in this way, Krishna has given all of these different residents of Vrindavan the opportunity to care for him and love him as their children. Anyway, it's a nice passage. If we see our children, our wife, our spouse, husband, wife, whatever, if we see them as servants of Krishna, and if we see our main purpose of life to be to serve them in their forward advancement in Krishna consciousness, then we're grihastas. If, however, we see them differently, as objects of our sense gratification, and in the name of love, an opportunity to enjoy our own senses, we're grihamedis. That's the difference. Hare Krishna.
All right, Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was very sobering. I had a question, actually. There's a passage here that I wanted to hear maybe a further take on when Prabhupada says that, he says, for sense gratification, a woman creates an illusory love and the man becomes enchanted and by such false love and forgets his real duty. That, to me, that sounded maybe, don't men create false love also? It seems kind of like kind of one-sided there.
I think the idea is that in conditioned life, the standard seems to be that the pinnacle of beauty in the material world among human beings is feminine, is the woman. And that it suggests to me that Prabhupada's saying she adorns herself, she makes herself very attractive in every respect, but Just like Sankaracharya's rejection of the beauty of the woman as being merely skin deep, really just, the skin covering fat and flesh and bone marrow and so forth. That idea is there. And anyway, you can see it at play in human society. That even now, where women do their best to look extremely beautiful. Of course, men are doing their best to look handsome and attractive. Of course, for the most part, they fail at it utterly. But anyway, the women are the female in human society is typically really working hard at looking very attractive for the men, to attract the men. In the standard way of things, of course, whatever standard there is in Kali Yuga. So I think of it in that way. But it's certainly to be said that whether you want to consider the woman to be the source of the illusion or the man, they're both an illusion. And if you recognize the wonderful Vaishnavis in this movement, and Vaishnavas, the female devotees and male devotees, you recognize personalities that are rising above that illusion and are making a real contribution to saving the conditioned souls in human society. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Iron chains and iron bars, he says. In other places, he speaks of golden shackles, the golden shackles. Look at these golden shackles. Boy, oh boy, aren't they attractive? Hare Krishna.
I suspect that it's gold-plated only. The iron is there.
Yeah. I was finding it interesting going through this section in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary, that really he moves very quickly through all these verses so far in this chapter, whereas Prabhupada has a tremendous amount to say, because he's speaking mostly to a Western audience who's really bought into all of this illusion that Kapila Dev is pointing out to an unlimited degree. All right, Hare Krishna. Let's see. Thank you for reading Panchatattva, Prabhu. Priyanka Mataji, would you be able to read text number 9?
Yes, Prabhuji. गृहेषु कूटधर्मेषु दुःखतन्त्रेषु अतन्त्रितः कुर्वन् दुःखप्रतीकारं सुखं मन्यते गृहे. The attached householder remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics, always spreading miseries and controlled by acts of sense gratification. He acts just to counteract the reactions of all his miseries. And if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks that he is happy. In Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead himself certifies the material world as an impermanent place that is full of miseries. There is no question of happiness in this material world, either individually or in terms of family, society, or country. If something is going on in the name of happiness, that is also illusion. Here, in this material world, happiness means successful counteraction to the effects of distress. The material world is so made that unless one becomes a clever diplomat, his life will be a failure. Not to speak of human society, even the society of lower animals, the birds and bees, cleverly manages its bodily demands of eating, sleeping, and mating. Human society competes nationally or individually, and in an attempt to be successful, the entire human society becomes full of diplomacy. We should always remember that in spite of all diplomacy and all intelligence in the struggle for our existence, everything will end in a second by the supreme will. Therefore, all our attempts to become happy in this material world are simply a delusion offered by Maya. So, a materialist definition of becoming happy is to be just free from miseries, because a materialist has not yet tasted a higher taste, Brahmabhut Prasannatma. That prasannata he has not yet experienced by being in association of devotees, of chanting the holy names, hearing about the Lord, discussing the glories of the Lord, spreading the glories of the Lord, the happiness which a devotee experiences in the devotional service. Because he has not yet experienced it, he thinks that if he has counteracted the miseries, he has stopped his bad times from coming through one means or another. He thinks that he is happy and he is successful if he is able to remove the obstructions which come on the path of his sense gratification. That is the meaning of a materialist success. One question that comes to mind, reading about diplomacy. So, is it not that even in our devotee community, we see that for managerial matters, or even sometimes at individual level, people do practice diplomacy, sometimes to retain their position, sometimes to protect themselves. So, what's the importance of diplomacy in our devotional life?
Dr. Prabhu, would you care to field that one?
Well, here I think reference to diplomacy is not being straightforward, not being honest. Typically, we don't want to act in that way as a devotee. We want to be straightforward and truthful. We don't want to unnecessarily engage in deception. Sometimes, for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness, we may be a little bit indirect, but only on the order of our spiritual master and only in pursuit of giving people an opportunity. For example, prasadam distribution. We may distribute prasadam without telling everybody before they ate, this is a pure remnants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And once you have one taste, your spiritual life is guaranteed and your whole material existence is going to be ultimately destroyed. In fact, we don't act that way in spreading Krishna consciousness. We can be a little tactful. And if we refer to that as tact, you can call it diplomacy, I suppose. It's all right. But the diplomacy described here is something else. It has to become a clever diplomat. He has to schmooze people who are terribly materially engrossed, and in the process compromise his own values. This is, for example, the commonly seen end of many politicians. They go into office with these lofty ideals, and within a few years, they're so completely compromised by the atmosphere of diplomacy and trying to get their way, and they can't quite get their way, so they have to lie and cheat and steal in order to get their way. Anyway, these things are going on in human society. You seemingly can't avoid it, and some people become so good at it that they rise in their material position seemingly, only to be thrown down to the lowest position in their next lives. So diplomacy in that sense is not good. Tactfulness in spreading Krishna consciousness is welcome, especially when it's under the authority of advanced devotees. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhuji. So, for the interest of others in devotional life, it is okay. But when it is for one's own interest, diplomacy is not welcomed in devotional life, because sometimes we see that devotees trying to remain in society and trying to remain hold of their position. They may not be welcoming other devotees sometimes. So for one's individual interest, it's not good. But for the interest of others, while spreading Krishna consciousness and under the guidance of a spiritual master, it is welcomed.
Yeah, we had to be aware of what is our purpose. And again, this is where the instructions of one's spiritual master are particularly applicable and important. If one is wondering, for example, he's on, it's not like we take every single aspect of our life and throw it at the feet of our spiritual. What should I do today? I'm going into the office and and then repeatedly harass one's teacher about minutiae in one's life. But you can get general directions about how to deal. For example, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur instructed us that we should be polite in our dealings with non-devotees, but we shouldn't be intimate. Shouldn't be intimate. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is such a great example. He worked as a magistrate. In the British Raj, he had a very significant position. And certainly he had to deal with all kinds of persons. And he dealt with them in such a way that they greatly respected him and appreciated his work. So there was definitely communication going on, back and forth, and respectful dealings. But he wasn't dealing with them in a soul-to-soul intimate way. That's different. That's reserved for devotees or for those who are interested in devotional service.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. I have a question.
Thank you very, very much. Yes. So Anantashesha Prabhu in the chat says, diplomacy for the right purpose is the key. And along with that, the word that is used in the text, kuta dharma, or the practice of lying. Reminds me of something I would say one of our great managers in our society is Malati Prabhu, Prabhupada's Malati. I used to have a thing that I would say that there's a phenomenon called the Malati 5 minutes, and she's managed many, many temples. And one devotee said, yeah, she just came, she asked me if I could help out and look at the rafters in the basement for 5 minutes. And 5 years later, I'm still living here and I'm still maintaining the property and still fixing things up. So it was a phenomenon. She would ask you to help for 5 minutes, and then you'd wind up serving for a whole lot longer than 5 minutes. But that was her perfect use of diplomacy to get some service done for Krishna. Thank you for reading, Priyanka Mataji.
May I hearken back to that one passage that I wanted to?
Oh, share? Yes, please hearken away.
This is from Rupa Vilas's wonderful book, Babaji Maharaj, Two Beyond Duality, biographies of their divine graces, Srila Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj and Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. And this is Gaura Das Babaji, a pastime. After his wedding, a rich man from Calcutta who had taken shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wished to know how he could utilize his time in Hari Bhajan while situated in married life. With that purpose in mind, he approached Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for instruction. The wealthy gentleman became very depressed when he was informed by Saraswati Thakur that there might well be various obstacles in his attempt to perform Hari Bhajan as a householder. Later on, this gentleman, accompanied by Srila Saraswati Thakur, went to meet Srila Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj on the riverbank at Kulia. When it was mentioned to Srila Babaji Maharaj that the gentleman had married, Babaji Maharaj commented, quote, "Yes, it is all right that he is married. From this time on, he will daily cook and offer foodstuffs to Lord Vishnu. After offering it to him, he will serve the prasad to his wife, and then as a Vaishnava, he will take her prasad remnants. He will consider her as Krishna's servitor and his spiritual master. You will not think of her as an object for sensual gratification. Everything in this world, wealth, jewelry, men and women, are all for worshiping Krishna. That which is meant for Krishna's service should be utilized as such. Do not consider your wife as one meant for your service. Instead, respect her as a servitor of Krishna. There's another rendition of this pastime, which is similar, but that's the short version from Srila Gaur Das Babaji Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that, Prabhu. Right on point. I'm noticing that Shara and Doug are tuned in tonight. I wonder if perhaps one or both of them would like to read our next verse, which is verse number 10.
I'll do the next one. I need a second to get the book and everything.
Okay, great. So let's see. Dana Mataji, would you like to read our text number 10? Or Toshini Mataji, are you able to read this evening?
Hare Krishna. Yes, well, I just don't have the specific verse and chapter and canto. It's third canto, isn't it?
Yes, we're in third canto, chapter 30, and text number 10 is our next verse.
30, 10. Okay, chapter 30. 1 minute, please. I'm sorry for that.
Oh, thank you so much for your willingness to read.
And verse 10, it's my pleasure. Okay. Artairapaditair gurvya himsayitastataschatan pushnati yesham poshena sesha bhugyatyadah swayam. Translation. He secures money by committing violence here and there, and although he employs it in the service of his family, he himself eats only a little portion of the food thus purchased, and he goes to hell for those for whom he earned the money in such an irregular way. Purport. There is a Bengali proverb, the person from whom I have stolen accuses me of being a thief. The family members for whom an attached person acts in so many criminal ways are never satisfied. In illusion, an attached person serves such family members, and by serving them, he's destined to enter into a hellish condition of life. For example, a thief steals something to maintain his family, and he is caught and imprisoned. This is a sum and substance of material existence and attachment to material society, friendship, and love. Although an attached family man is always engaged in getting money by hook or by crook for the maintenance of his family, he cannot enjoy more than what he could consume even without such criminal activities. A man who eats 8 ounces of foodstuffs may have to maintain a big family and earn money by any means to support that family, but he himself is not offered more than what he can eat. And sometimes he eats the remnants that are left after his family members are fed. Even by earning money by unfair means, he cannot enjoy life for himself. That is called the covering illusion of Maya. The process of illusory service to society, country, and community is exactly the same everywhere. The same principle is applicable even to big national leaders. A national leader who is very great in serving his country is sometimes killed by his countrymen because of irregular service. In other words, one cannot satisfy his dependence by this illusory service, although one cannot get out of the service because servant is his constitutional position. A living entity is constitutionally part and parcel of the Supreme Being, but he forgets that he has to render service to the Supreme Being and diverts his attention to serving others. This is called Maya. By serving others, he falsely thinks that he is master. The head of a family thinks of himself as the master of the family, or the leader of a nation thinks of himself as the master of the nation, whereas actually he is serving, and by serving Maya, he's gradually going to hell. Therefore, a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, applying his whole life, all of his wealth, his entire intelligence, and his full power of speaking. Hare Krishna. Om Gyanatimmirandasya Gyananjanashkakya Chakshurmritam Jnana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So very interesting. Well, because when you work, uh, when you work for family, you do so many things and you cultivate a lot of karma. And even though you try to avoid like the sins, the sinful actions, it's always kind of related somehow to some sins. And it's true, like sometimes you try to satisfy the family. For myself, for example, I have a daughter, and I try everything, and now she's like teenager and she doesn't care all about me really. And it's it's very difficult, but it's made in such a way, I find, that you kind of, I mean, at least when you have the knowledge, it's made in such a way that you don't keep a grasp on it. You're not like overly attached to it. Yes, you're attached because you're still conditioned, and it's a process. It's not like from day one to the second day that you're like completely relief of all this illusion. But at least the more time goes, you get older, the more the illusion, the more you understand that all of this is illusion. It's well done. And also I find that sometimes you develop qualities like patience, tolerance, and humility, I would say. And yeah, is there anything else?
Well, Jai, thank you so much for reading and for your comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions here, just very briefly, he, the materialist, he eats or enjoys whatever is left after his members have eaten. This means that his enjoyment is rare. I appreciate the point you raised that, you do something in Krishna consciousness, the mentality is completely different. It may look similar to the materialist's arrangement, but when you have the mentality, like the mentality espoused by Srila Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj that we just heard by the grace of Panchatattva Prabhu, that your family members are Vaishnavas and you serve them and you worship them as Vaishnavas because of their connection with Krishna, then your mentality is good. That's great. Otherwise, as we will hear, you're in a lot of trouble. Thank you so much for reading. Anything more that you wanted to say on that?
I was thinking about something. Comes and goes, and now I just forgot it, but maybe later. Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. Thank you. Oh, Ananta Shesha Prabhu had a comment in the chat, and then he just removed it. So I can't give it. Hare Krishna. What can be done?
I can say that actually.
Oh, good. Please do.
Since I'm a very slow typer, what I was typing was everything we do for the family gradually creates unknowingly a sense of expectation in us from them, and in 100% of the cases that ends up in disappointment. That's all.
Everybody's nodding their head. We have some experience. Yes, it is a grand festival of disappointment. Hare Krishna. So let's see. Thank you for that, Ananta Shesha Prabhu. So text 11 and 12 are short, and I'll read them, and then it will be time for kirtan, I think. We'll start next time with text number 13, has a good purport there. So now text 11, Vartayam lupyamanayam arabdhayam puna punaha lobha bibhuto nisatvaha pararte kurute spriham. When he suffers reverses in his occupation, he tries again and again to improve himself, but when he is baffled in all attempts and is ruined, he accepts money from others because of excessive greed. Tumba bharana kalpo manda bhagyo vritodyamaha shriya vihina kripano dhyayan shvasiti mudhadi. Thus the unfortunate man, unsuccessful in maintaining his family members, is bereft of all beauty. He always thinks of his failure, grieving very deeply. Hare Krishna. And Justin Prabhu's got a comment here. Hi, I'm new here. Would it be easy to give me an explanation of Krishna, the concept, and I guess the definition, to give me an expanded context for our classes? Sorry if it's a simple question. I appreciate any response. I would tend to defer to my senior god cousin brother Panchatattva Prabhu in this matter. An explanation of Krishna, the concept. We've got just a couple of minutes.
Repeat the question.
He says, would it be easy to give me an explanation of Krishna, the concept, and I guess the definition, to give me an expanded context for our classes?
There's definitely some background reading you can do. I don't know if he has been exposed to any of our small books or even pamphlets, Krishna, the Reservoir of Pleasure, Perfection of Yoga. There's so many different source literatures. But suffice to say that we're talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of everything. And therefore, the reservoir of all wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, and who possesses personal characteristics and traits, and is eternal, and whose body is fully spiritual and not subject to old age, disease, death, and rebirth, who's not different from his body. His body and his self are the same, unlike we conditioned souls in our present predicament, where we are different from these temporary material bodies, and whose consciousness is all pervasive, whose power is unlimited, and who is very interested in seeing all the conditioned souls come back home, back to Godhead. But for a detailed understanding, it won't suffice to hear in a few minutes at the end of this class. Best to inquire about what literature you can obtain, and also to continue attending classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, such as this one and others. I would also like to ask if he's close to some temple or some facility where he can continue his investigation about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. And looks like help is on the way. Your daughter's posted some helpful information there. So yeah, and going back to the chat, Panchatattva Prabhu also said those reverses, in other words, the reverses we're reading about in these verses, may come for a number of reasons, including financial reverses and the reducing effects of old age, the debilitating effects of old age. Hare Krishna. Justin says, thank you. Beautiful answer. I really appreciate it. And we all do, frankly. And now it's 7:55. And I would really appreciate hearing that kirtan melody that you were speaking of earlier.
Let's see how it goes. Let's see if I can remember it. I find it very easily on the harmonium. Let's see if I can do it this way. It looks like His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami has joined us. Hare Krishna. Jai Guru Maharaj. So glad you could join us.
Thank you. Sorry I wasn't here earlier.
Earlier? What is it, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning there, Guru Maharaj?
I've got, my computer tells me one thing, my clock tells me another thing. Yeah, it's getting to be 4 o'clock in the morning, but which is not very early, but just figuring out where. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajagacharya Stotrasata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajagacharya Astotarasata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Rimse Kahoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Brindi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Girgovardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Yamuna Maya Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gora Premanande Haribol.
Hari Hari. Thank you so much. Hopefully next time we can hear from you more, Shara. See if you're still able to read. Cool. Thank you. And so glad to see you, Maharaj, even at the last minute for even a moment. Lava
So
mantra.
glad to tune in and find out, to hear about Krishna, who Krishna is. So nice. Thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu. And thank you to all.
Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Brindaki. Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Haribol. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So nice to see you. Are you in Mauritius?
Yes.
Wow.
They're launching Creole Bhagavad Gita tomorrow.
Creole Bhagavad Gita. Wow. Hare Krishna.
First Creole.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.